Do you mind if I'm a wise ass in this?
Oh, if you weren't being a wise ass, you wouldn't be Aaron.
Okay, so let's get started. So I'm Aaron from Lone Star Drift in Drift Week 3 at this point. This is Ian Andreessen from Valino. He's the, what do you call yourself?
I call myself the CEO of Valino Tires.
Okay, all of it international, not just Japan?
Correct, everything
The
all
whole
together,
world.
the whole thing.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, and he is irresponsibly, again, multiple weeks in America hanging out with the Drift Week guys. What's going on with Valino in Japan while you're here? Who's in charge? Anybody?
Well, we have staff in Japan that takes care of everything, so
Okay.
they're very much more responsible staff that we have over there. So.
And you can like do everything by email.
Oh yeah,
and do everything?
I check up on everyone, see if everything's going good, and just
Okay. So I've already completely forgot about what I was just about to talk about. But for the basics, I would like to talk about drifting in Japan, because you're an American. We already talked about his history. If you want to find out that video, go look up from Drift Week 2. I don't even know the name of it, but you can find it.
Yeah.
Probably says Valino Tires or something like that. There's gonna be cars passing by here constantly. Hopefully they don't run over Sai, our cameraman. So anyways, why don't we talk about the state of drifting in Japan, because there's very few Americans that speak Japanese, and Japanese and English. There we go.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. There's Sai's actually probably should scoot back at this point so he doesn't die. So anyways, you are one of the few conduits that we really have in real time where I can ask you what's been going on in 2020 and 2021. So why don't you tell me how D1 USA was this year, D1 Japan, there we go.
D1 Japan, yeah.
Formula D Japan, how the grassroots scene's going, if they had huge shutdowns and stuff, and if drifting is still going on there smoothly, if they're having spectators, you're obviously spending money from the Valino corporate account into the drifters' budgets and into D1 and Formula D's budgets, maybe, or whatever.
Yes.
But you're doing all that stuff. Are you supporting those series this year, or are you backing out? What's going on with you guys in Japan? What is the whole status of everything?
Okay, good question. Like I mentioned in the last video that we did, I have Japanese staff who have been very involved in drifting themselves for quite a number of years, who handle all of the Japanese side of everything. Just as last year, 2020, in 2021, we're also sponsoring D1 GP in Japan. We're also sponsoring Formula Drift Japan. We have knocked down the level of sponsorship. The main reason for that is, honestly, we feel through the first 2 years of working with D1 GP and with Formula Drift Japan, in Japan, we've gained enough trust, and we've gained enough content, we've gained enough wins under our belt to take the next step, which is obviously for Valino to become more and more international. So what our plan for this year, which we've been working on now for about half a year at least, is to use some of the funds that we have been using in Japan and circulate that flow throughout the rest of the world. Obviously, it was a no-brainer to team up with Lone Star Drift this year in the USA. We're very happy to be on the team with you guys. And there's a lot of other things that I'm unfortunately not able to tell you at this time, but probably by the time you see the video, they're all going to know it. So yeah,
what are those things?
We're actually teaming up with Peter Visick in Europe. He'll be running the Drift Master Series in Europe. We're also teaming up with Dmitry Ilyuk, who is a Ukrainian professional driver. He won He won the FIA event, the Drift Games event in 2019, which took place in Europe. So he's jumped onto the Valino team also. We have our UK driver, Martin Richards, who'll also be drifting in the European DMEC. So we have a lot of top-notch drivers who will be Valino sponsored in Europe. So as I explained before, we're going big in the US, and hopefully this year we're going to be starting to step in to the European market.
Is this interview really going to be that easy? You just told me you couldn't tell me these things until they see this video, they'll be announced, and then I just asked you what they were, and then you told me what they were.
I figured, as I was saying it, I figured, yeah, by the time the video is out,
because I'm going to publish this thing tonight.
Then we're going to have to cut that. because
How long until we can publish it?
I'll get into a lot of trouble if you put
Like
that
a week
out.
or two?
No, I'll let you know.
Okay. You better let Cy know.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that's going to edit
Yeah.
this. So anyways, you do that. I won't know otherwise.
Okay.
So, plus no one's going to see this. So, what else are you doing with the brand and like, oh no, not with the brand. I was asking you specifically about D1 and Formula D and all that stuff. Were they having crowds? I asked him something and then he immediately just talks into like, not bad corporate speak, but he talks about egocentrically how the company is and what the company's doing.
Man.
And I'm like, what about the whole scene there? Not just you guys.
Right.
Are all the companies cutting back?
Well, Japan has never been a really great country, like with big companies supporting drifting, as you know. It's looked down upon in Japan. You know
Really?
that. Yeah.
I always thought it was huge, like HKS and tons of these companies were putting tons of money in it. You'd go to Super Auto Box and they'd be pallets of coilovers with RSR, on it and stuff. And they'd have Taniguchi or something on there, or Rito. Like, I thought it was kind of like NASCAR.
Well, it's not, I'd say like GT500, which is grip racing, obviously. That's a lot bigger in Japan. Like I said, drifting, it's just a small, like niche, just a small amount of people who actually even know what drifting is. I could just walk on the street and carry around the Drift Tengoku magazine and people would be like, oh, what's that? And, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of like
Rice cars.
outlaws, burning rubber on the streets of Japan. So I have to explain, no. They're not just all going in the streets in the mountains in Japan,
So after all
It's
this,
a
drifting
professional
still isn't
sport.
mainstream in Japan after 20 years or 30 years?
No,
Crazy. So it's never going to be that big there then?
I doubt it.
In fact, it's probably, so is it still shrinking or is it getting bigger or is it just maintaining?
I'd say it's maintaining. It's not shrinking, but at the same time, it's not really growing, Yeah, so to get back to your original question, D1 GP is still going on. They have, 30, 40, 50 drivers this year again. There's a lot of changes with tire sponsors, Everyone is always changing every year, right? I see a few D1 GP Japanese drivers showing more interest in Europe, specifically Russia, RDS. Seems like very interesting. A lot of Japanese drivers are interested in RDS. Formula Drift
Why
Japan.
are they specifically interested in RDS? Okay. And then go back to the Japan.
Sure, okay. The Japanese top drivers have already won their championships in D1 in Japan. So in their eyes, the next logical move would be to go where drifting is most popular in their eyes, which now happens to be RDS.
That's more popular than Formula D to them?
Obviously, to these gentlemen, yes.
Why is that?
That's a question that I cannot answer because I
Is it because there's a ton of money there?
There is a lot of money there, yes. I can't say specifically which market has more money in it, comparing Formula Drift USA to RDS.
Because the Japanese economy is way bigger than the Russian economy. The USA economy is, I think, 10 times bigger than the Russian economy. The Russian economy, if I remember, it was like 8% the size of the USA economy. And not only that, their economy is heavily based upon fossil fuel exports and stuff, natural gas and things like that.
Right.
I wouldn't think that they really have a lot of companies that are large manufacturers of, parts or, whatever.
Right.
I wouldn't think they really have, since they're mostly, I think, a natural resource exporting company. I guess they have a lot of oligarchs there, like, a lot of money off of just like random stuff.
That's basically what it is. It's interesting that you mentioned that because I've noticed that there are a lot of motor oil companies sponsoring. Look at James Dean. I mean, that team there has James Dean, they have Saito Daigo, and they have Charles Ng on their team. And that's an oil company who's fully sponsoring that
What's
team.
an oil company?
It's what's it called? AIM Oil, I think is the name of the company.
I've heard of it.
I've never heard of it myself, but they're going full out. So there's other oil companies who have actually, come to think of it, contacted me asking if Valino would be interested to team up with them. But so we are actually teaming up with a few drivers in RDS itself in Russia. So yeah, that's another one. We will be going to Russia too. So
Is your budget for Russia or the United States larger?
oh, the U.S. No question.
Okay.
No question about it. Okay.
And does Russia have its own? We'll get right back to your thing.
Right.
Does Russia have its own series of like number of drivers that are as big as the D1 guys, or the D1 drivers way bigger than the Russian guys? I don't know much about the Russian guys.
Honestly, I haven't been there myself. It seems kind of hard for me to get over there. I'm hoping to get over there this year or next year. From what I've seen, the Russian like drifting scene is like humongous. We're talking like
that way.
20, 30,000 people, spectators at events.
That's way bigger than FD.
That's what I mean.
That's way bigger than D1. Is that why the Japanese guys
That's
see
one
that
of the
as
reasons,
huge?
yeah, and that's one of the other reasons why
So they have the support of the spectators.
Yeah, that's one of companies are interested in that, because if you have a booth at that place, you're going to sell a lot of merch, you're going to sell your product, promotion, everything else.
Interesting. All right, go back to the Japan side now.
Okay, Formula Drift Japan. It's very interesting. From 2021, they actually changed. They're making a lot of changes. They started something similar to the USA Pro Spec. They started what they call Formula Drift Japan 2, I think it's called. And what it is basically anyone that does not have their pro license must go through the Pro Formula FD-J2. Okay, you have to get your license through there. It's a one-tire deal. They signed a deal with, I think it's Yokohama for this year, I believe. It was really interesting. I've heard that they have about 80 cars lined up to compete in that.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, yeah.
That seems bigger than the FD Japan stuff.
It's a lot bigger, yeah. I think they have to cap the FD Japan stuff. I think they're capping it at 40 to 60 drivers.
So how many spectators are there at an FD Japan event?
That's the problem.
Well, how many?
100, 200?
I don't know. What? They're running FD Japan with 100 to 200 spectators?
Yeah, and this is basically from my point of view.
Viable?
Right? From my point of view, it hasn't changed that much since COVID came. So what that means, basically, what I'm saying is
they didn't even have to change anything because they weren't
pre-COVID.
Wow. How many spectators does D1GP get?
D1GP, they'd have to cut it. Well, since COVID, they've been cutting it. I think they cut Scuba, which took place in January. I think the cut line was 5,000.
Okay, and how many in 2019 for the biggest D1 event?
Oh, I couldn't tell you the numbers. I'd say between 10 to 15,000.
So that's comparable to the largest FD event, basically.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Okay, so about the same type of spectator support.
Right.
So then that means, are the Japanese not supporting Formula D Japan because of some cultural thing where they don't like a gaijin company hosting something in their country, or does it just not marketed well, or like what's the specific reason there?
Good question.
Because it's not Formula D, it's a franchise of Formula D owned by a Japanese person, right?
Yes, that's correct, yeah. So basically from how I see it is just you have your hardcore D1GP fans, okay? And they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very true to who they support, so they're not welcome to new things, so to speak. And FD Japan is FD USA, so everyone's like, oh yeah, it's just FD USA, I don't like the rules, or I don't like this, or So it's not.
I would think there's enough people that are angry at D1 for whatever reason, not because I'm angry or anybody thinks that they're angry, but the people that are just fed up with the status quo that would go over to that as a spectator, as a driver. Because even if they're only getting 100 to 200 spectators, you would think one person coming to spectate for each of those drivers in FD Japan would create that crowd, or two. But that's insane. That's just somebody's mom. It's almost not having spectators at all at that rate.
Right.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Very weird.
It is weird. It is interesting because, since 2-3 years ago, Japan has become very popular in Japan. And as you've seen, a few D1 GP drivers have actually, jumped off of that program and showed interest into the FD Japan program. Mm-hmm. And there's some more of that happening this year, actually.
But if there's no spectators and stuff, why would they do that?
Well, I think that it's just like the Japanese people look at it just like baseball. Japanese baseball is very big. It's the largest, most popular sport in Japan. Mm-hmm. And what is every professional Japanese baseball player's dream?
To play in America?
To play in the major leagues. So a lot of these D1 GP drivers from back in the day, their dream was to drive in the USA. That's the next step. So these drivers that are ducking out of D1 GP and jumping onto FDJ, obviously they want that license so they could possibly have a chance to come to FDUSA. Whereas, like I just mentioned earlier, RDS is like a whole nother scene over there. So to some of these people now, FDUSA is bigger than, RDS is bigger than FDUSA. Okay.
Hey, audience, if you guys know why RDS is so popular, leave it in the comments. I really want to read about that. I don't know. If you have any links to like specific videos that explain that or anything like that, or have like James Dean chatting about it, please link me as well, because I would like to educate myself upon that, because I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Keep going.
What else? What else do you want to know? What else do you want to talk about?
What else was like, how's the Grassroots scene there? How many tires do you, I guess we can talk about Valino a little bit. How many tires are you guys selling into the Grassroots scene there? What type of compounds? Are they sticky? This isn't like me doing marketing speak. I'm thinking about how, like, is the Grassroots scene growing there still? Are they doing a bunch of sticky tires? Are they doing Grassroots Matsuri tires? Like, what kind of things are they doing?
The Grassroots scene in Japan, like honestly speaking, there's a lot of tires. Wow, that was close. Jeez. Like you said earlier, there's a lot of Japanese tire brands, there's a lot of Chinese tire brands jumping up, just popping up left and right. And it happens a lot, obviously, in Japan, you know. So basically speaking, from Valino's point of view in Japan, our Griva line, which is what we're pushing here in the US for Grassroots, so our Grassroots line tire is not like a top seller tire in Japan. Even if you ask why, I don't know why. It's just there's so many choices. I mean, we have our customers, we have our group of customers, our fans, obviously. Mm-hmm. But in Japan, for Valino, our grippy tire is a lot more popular than our Grassroots tire. Mm-hmm. Which is, like I explained before, is the total opposite of the United States.
Okay, so that hasn't changed. It hasn't flip-flopped or anything like that.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have y'all been, like, is drifting in Japan on the Grassroots side getting more people? Is it growing, or is it the same?
No, I'd say it's about the same. It's not growing. I can't see it growing.
I would say the United States Grassroots scene right now is seeing a huge surge in participation because of YouTube, because of social media, because of more events, more locations, more event hosts, more companies getting interested. And those companies again are getting interested in like a cycle because there are more events and more drivers, and also more YouTube videos and more content and more marketing, and like there's a lot of like other companies popping in, like ECU Master, you know, like all these people or yourself. A lot of these companies are fairly new, and they've been in rapid growth mode. And when they're in rapid growth mode, they've got a lot of money coming in, and they want to push marketing money for tax reasons and everything else. And it's a great cycle.
Right.
So anyways, it's working out well for drifting.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the U.S., you could just see the growth in the Grassroots especially, and that's awesome because that's what we're all about, you know. But I'm not going to go into sales pitch, but yeah, you know, that's what we love to see. You know?
They won't listen to a sales pitch.
Yeah, they won't listen, so.
No, I mean, like, I just think it's really cool to talk to you about. I'm watching drift cars like scrape the wall right now. This is so cool
awesome.
to do an interview while we're watching this stuff with beautiful lighting. We're here at Evergreen Speedway right now during Drift Week 3. So, and he's playing hooky from work. Is there anything else you can tell me that? Because remember, these audience is not aware of what's going on Japan on a current basis, and I'm not either, and I'm pretty into everything going drifting. Yeah. Is there anything else you can think of that's like unique right now?
The thing that's on my mind and probably on your mind and a lot of people's minds would be ABC Circuit and what happened with the earthquake and the landslide and everything. I've seen a lot of support worldwide with the I know that Adam LZ took the time out of his day to help, create GoFundMe or whatever, to help ABC Circuit, which was, everyone is really grateful. I'm grateful myself. I took a drive up to ABC Circuit about a week after that earthquake, just to say hi and see if everyone was okay, and just let them know that we're there. Valino's there if they need anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time it was like literally a week after. So Kubo had, no idea like which way he was going to go, what he wanted to do. Like it was just, everything was just so overwhelming. He didn't even know if it was safe, if, aftershocks were going to come and there would be more landslides or whatnot. So after everything has calmed down, luckily they're straight on it, they're hard on it. Most of Ebisu is now open.
How about Nishi Long?
Nishi Long is not open because the straight is where the landslide actually fell, towards the rear. So it's basically FD Japan, where their start line is.
I was hoping they were going to pave over the mount.
He talked about that. He talked about making the latter part, like getting rid of the long and making like an off-road bike course. I mean, there were a lot of suggestions. I don't know exactly what they decided to do, but I have heard that Nishi Short is drivable.
Oh, okay.
So from what I hear this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything.
But we still
back,
can't get there.
I can't say back to normal, but back to what they will be for the future.
And the borders are going to be closed for a while.
The borders, I can see them being closed for a while yet. Yeah, for visitors. Yeah.
6 months, a year, 2 years.
I'd say plan your stuff for next year. I wouldn't plan anything for this year. Because it's a headache to get refunds or points or whatever for your plane tickets and your hotels. It's
a lot of us
headache.
have cars there. I have multiple cars there.
I know.
It's frustrating. But I mean, I know what it is. It is what it is. And I'm getting to do a lot of Drift Week stuff and everything right now.
Oh yeah, which I'm thankful for.
What is it like? Like, how is HKS and all the big manufacturers going? Because last time I was over in Japan, I would go to like those big HKS tuning shops that were huge, like 3 stories tall with garages underneath them and showrooms and stuff. And like, they look like worn out Kmarts now. And they were big. They had 20 bays in them and stuff, and like, they were almost abandoned. Or like they'd be closed even. Like we tried to go to some car modified wonders or whatever and they were closed. I don't know if they just moved locations and they did something else, but are those big shops like that kind of closing and disappearing, or what's going on with them?
No, I haven't heard any of that. Like I'm not that familiar with other companies like HKS. I don't have any private relationships with them, so I'm not exactly sure. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to, I don't want to be quoted for anything. Okay. But I haven't heard of any companies going under or doing...
Yeah. I don't know if they're going under. It just felt like maybe they were pulling back on a lot of their outlets or something. And
I haven't really heard of anything pulling back or moving forward or anything else, It's just kind of a waiting period for a lot of these companies, especially with all this COVID stuff,
Yeah. Cool.
So
how are you liking Drift Week?
Oh, I'm having a great time. It's the drive from Billings to Evergreen, immaculate.
Yeah. Did you go to the observatory on the beginning and do that whole trip?
I did, yes.
Okay, did you like that?
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Have you ever been to the Pacific Northwest?
No, not outside of Portland, basically. Okay. I've been here a few times just to meet up with Valino Northwest, but other than that, no.
I'm trying to create with this Drift Week, like, an adventure of seeing the region and going to places, eating, going to like landmarks, being around friends, networking, going to parties, doing the drifting, doing beautiful back roads, drives. I'm trying to create like an adventure for like, say for yourself or Wout or anybody that's never been to this region. Yeah. You get the whole flavor of it kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I wish, like when we go to Japan, we kind of do that on our own, but it's difficult. And we're outsiders and we don't know where to go and we don't know where the good roads are and everything. Right. So I'm trying my hardest.
Well, I love the idea and I appreciate you.
You're like, I don't like the real thing, but I like the idea.
No, I love your idea and I love what you're doing. Obviously, how can I put it?
I'm just joking.
No, it's been a trip, since Drift Week 2. Mm-hmm. It made me jealous that I wasn't able to go on Drift Week 1.
Yeah.
And
that one was way different. There was 14 of us.
Right.
It was small.
I remember you explaining
There's no containers of tires to sell my drivers.
Well,
and everyone was sponsored too. So
not even from a business point of view. Just to
like from historical thing.
Just to bring that part of history, U.S. drifting history, back to Japan. If I could have done an article in Drift Tengoku for Drift Week 1, that would have been awesome. So. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
yeah, he's the one that got us in the magazines. That is so cool. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we can do some more for Drift Week 3.
All of us are weebs for like being in Japanese magazines. Magazines don't even exist here
Oh
anymore.
man, like that was awesome. It was a great experience, and you know, I've been really good friends with the chief editor of Drift Tengoku for a long time. So it was a given, and he was actually supposed to come to Drift Week 3 himself. He has a car ready, and he did ask me to tell you that he will be here for Drift Week 4.
Woohoo!
So there's
That's
your
awesome.
Japanese driver.
As soon as the borders open.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
So, I see a bunch of drifters in Japan, like Taniguchi, and I don't remember if it's Arito, but other people getting YouTube channels there.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that? Do they just see that they're missing out and that they think it's the next big thing and they're just grasping at things? Or do they know what they're doing, or are sponsors asking them to do that and they're doing it for the sponsor reason? Because a lot of those guys like Arito and Taniguchi, they're made. They've been on Gravy Train Street, whatever, for decades.
Right.
They don't need to like go grasp at new media platforms and stuff. They've made their money, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just kind of like, what do you think about that?
That's a good question.
They probably ask
like-
you for money when they do these kinds of things. Not them, but you know, other people.
I would
So you
assume.
see
I would
what
assume
the
so,
Japanese
yeah.
are trying to do. Are they trying to emulate how the Japanese or the Americans are doing media?
Yes, I believe that's what it is. Like you said, it's not like they need the money. I don't think they're doing it specifically for that. I think that they're just finally catching on to what is popular now. You know, 21st century. You know, it's the Japanese are always a little slow, and they like to copy what the Americans do. You know, they're big fans of Western style. So they try to westernize themselves as much as they can. You know, that's why there's hamburger shops. That's why there's McDonald's and KFC.
Yeah, but that's ruining the culture too, because like they do fish well, they do not do hamburgers well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you there.
How are we doing on time? 5 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, so in answer to your question, I think they're doing it not for the money, not because companies asked them or told them to. I think they're just doing it because other people around the world are doing it, and they felt that they should be doing it also because, like I said, the Japanese are very strict society, and if they get a catch of something going on that they think would better themselves, then they're going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 4 minutes to finish up. My last question is, do you work with like Option Video at all? Because you work with Drift Tengoku magazine and stuff. Do you work with Option Video or anything like that?
Okay.
And are they doing anything? What's up with them? How are they creating new content? Are they doing the exact same thing from 15 years ago? What are they doing?
Okay, I'm not...
Because they haven't, the reason I ask is because they don't translate into English anymore. So it's kind of off our radar. We can kind of watch it a little bit, but we don't know what's going on. So we might watch some of the drifting, but we don't know any of the backstory or anything of what's going on.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're familiar. Option Magazine and Drift Tengoku were basically owned by the same published by the same...
And who was that?
I'm not sure. I think it was...
Sun or something?
Sun A or something like that, I believe. They broke up a few years ago, so they're separate now.
Okay.
Option, I don't have any direct contacts with Option.
Okay.
I do see them coming to a lot of like time attack related events in Japan themselves, so I would assume that they're just doing what they always do.
Interesting. I thought you would have some type of contact with these guys because you're super Japanese over there, like, you know, in the Japanese market, working with lots of drivers, you're working internationally, you're sponsoring a lot of people.
Yeah.
They don't hit you up for money, or they don't...
Wow, that was close.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know photographers and I know the staff of Option, but we just I don't have any like personal like relationships with anyone from Option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anybody else you have personal relationships with that buys, like, you know, you buy media from or anything like that that's on, you know, the cutting edge of doing something cool? Like, we're doing Drift Week here. Is there anything weird and wacky that's going on over there?
No.
No?
No.
Just the same old D1, FD Japan, like D1 street legal, you know, whatever, grassroots driving?
Yeah, there's a new drifting association that just started in Japan called It's called JDC, Japan Drifting
Championship?
Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That was an easy one to guess.
You got me there. We're kind of interested to see how that's going to go because they're basing their rules on D1 and FD, but trying to be different at the same time.
How are they different?
Human judges, firstly.
Formula D Japan's not human judges?
Formula D Japan is human judges.
Okay.
So just an example versus D1.
Yeah.
Just the tech of the cars. They're trying to be. They have their levels all together. You know, you have your beginner, your intermediate level, and then some events they do like, you know, pro class where anything goes. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. What, you know, give it a few years, see how that grows. Hopefully we could, as Valino, I could connect with them and we could bring that to the U.S. and bring it to Europe.
Okay. We have 2 more minutes, so we'll finish up pretty quickly. Is there anything you want to ask me? Because like I'm over in America a lot more than you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can think of as a Japanese person that you're curious about? That can also be answered in 1 minute. You're like, no.
There's like a million, but there's nothing that can be answered in a minute.
Okay.
How do you see the grassroots drifting scene in the U.S. growing after COVID is out of the?
Real quickly, everything in the United States is blowing up right now because A, government money, B, the population has been starved for attention and been sitting at home not spending like extraneous money. They've been saving. They haven't been spending it on their mortgages because they've been deferring mortgages. They haven't been spending money on movies, going out, probably a lot of those things that they've been drinking at home, which is far cheaper. Yeah. They've been watching Netflix instead of doing other things. There's a lot of pent-up demand for everything, and we're hosting events right now around the country, and like attendance is double. Everything is going crazy. Car prices are going crazy. Prices of motorcycles are crazy. Anything that you can go do, buy, whatever, because of downplay in production, because of computer chips and all this stuff, and like, you know, factories are being shut down. All that stuff went down. Everybody wants everything. There's tons of extra money everywhere. Everybody wants to be outside. Everybody, like, there's been beautiful weather. Texas is unlocked. Everybody's going crazy. Grassroots drifting is exploding right now, but a lot of it's exploding from people that have been pent up, and maybe they just put away their drift cars like a year ago, and they didn't do a lot of drifting in 2019 or 2020. All those people are getting out their drift cars and YOLOing around with cash.
Okay.
It's going crazy. Cool. And I'm sure you've seen that in tire sales, correct?
Yes, I have, yes.
Yeah, tire sales are probably absolutely insane right now.
Absolutely.
Especially because a lot of companies like Kenda, who I used to work with, I love Kenda to death, but they don't have products coming into the country right now because of tariffs. Probably Valino is filling the gap for a lot of those people, and it's probably just like, boom, just like confetti cannon going crazy.
Yeah, well,
right,
it was a great opportunity. It was a great opportunity, you know, and we're, at Valino, we're here to support Grassroots all the way up to pro, so.
Thank you very much. All right. Oh, I forgot to mention, I work with these guys now, so this is paid advertising. No, they didn't pay me. I just think it's cool because he's here. Valino guys are my friends. Mike Jang, the American person at the company, is awesome. Cameron's awesome. You guys are all just people that are around. I love working with them. All the other tire companies I ever worked with are faceless corporations where you only meet them at SEMA. I've freaking loved that these guys are here. This makes me so, so, so happy. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.